Welcome back to Talk Today. It's coming up to 8:30. We'll have the papers in just a moment. Let's give you a quick look at what else is coming up on the programme.
Botched foreign surgeries. So many people talking about it. Cost the health service a couple of million quid last year. At 8:45, we'll talk to a woman who was left needing life-saving surgery on the NHS because she thought she'd be OK abroad.
Hundreds could have their post office convictions overturned this year. The Sun columnist Trevor Kavanagh has his say on the matter just after 9.
And the Royal Marines row, Admiral Lord West has hid out at Grant Shapps after the Defence Secretary's comments yesterday seemed to undermine the Marines' very existence. Lord West himself on this show at 9:20 this morning.
In the meantime, in the studio, writer Emma Wolfe and journalist James Bloodworth join us for a final look at this morning's papers. Good morning to both of you. We mentioned it in the coming up. What's happening at schools, James? This story inside the Mail saying state schools are being more socially selective than the average grammar. How is that the case?
What does that mean?
So it means the best state schools in the country are, disproportionately selecting more wealthier pupils, for example. So you've got so grammar schools are selective schools. You have private schools which are selective schools, but comprehensive is supposed to be for everyone, fair admissions. But what's happening is some of the best state schools, first of all, are in areas with more expensive houses, so you tend to get more rich kids going there. But also middle-class parents tend to be better at playing the system and getting their kids into the good schools than poorer working-class parents who maybe don't know how to
the system shouldn't
manoeuvre
be
through the
played
system.
At a comprehensive
But parents will move, they'll move area.
They will,
absolutely.
It's
networking as well.
People with money, yeah.
I think it's the other way around. I don't think it's that these comprehensive schools are being specifically selective. It is very much that middle-class parents, like me, will fight tooth and nail. They will find out which are the best schools. They will read the Ofsted. I'm choosing a primary school for my 3-year-old at the moment. And I know that me and people like me, we're all looking at the best ones. We're reading the Ofsted reports. We're making appointments to go and see the headmistress, all of this kind of stuff. We're pushy and we're trying to get our children into the best state schools, whereas there may be many other families who just think, well, I'll go to the local school or I'll just, apply that way. So I think it's very much pressure from parents. And they are as well pushing up prices of houses.
But James makes the point that maybe if you come from a poorer background, you don't have the network, you don't have the money to move area. I'm not saying you don't have the ability to do it. Maybe it's just not known to you. You're at a disadvantage.
It's not in your DNA
right?
necessarily. You might just assume that you go to the local school, that you apply, and that you don't go kind of do all the research.
It's kind of a cultural capital thing. Like you may not understand the social etiquette of getting your kid in the school.
But your bank balance shouldn't determine maybe your efforts to try and get your child into the best school. You might see this and think, I would be desperate to use these strategies, but I can't afford to do them, rather than not thinking about it.
No, it doesn't cost anything. I mean, obviously it costs a lot to move house, but
if you want to rent a flat that is in the catchment area,
but are we not?
But it's like the health service. I think that middle-class people, wealthier people, push more. They find out the name of the consultant they want. They email.
But are we saying
they'll also
then,
be networking in the same places as some of the school teachers,
if we live in a world where we try and be as respectful as we can, the danger with saying that is you're saying that working class people, hear me out, in general, aren't switched on enough or care about their kids enough to look for a better school or push the NHS.
I'm not, because it is a very fine line.
I don't think we can say that.
I'm
I
talking
personally
about
naively think if you're a parent, wherever you come from, whether you're minted or you're not, you want to do what's best for your kid.
Yeah, I don't think it's not caring about it. It's often the social etiquette, the kind of socialising in the same places.
Sense of entitlement as well.
Yeah, and you have, exactly. And you also have people from, middle-class parents maybe already networking with people who are on the board of governors at the school. They may go to the same social events. They may play badminton together. They may go to the same gyms, whereas the working-class parents are not going to have those opportunities.
Well, here are some parents
Let's skip through these, because we've only got 6 minutes gone.
So in The Sun, a judge has said, James, that parents are turning their children into snowflakes by not letting them walk alone.
Oh, dear.
Yes, sorry, I'm just trying to find out. Yes, so a judge just says kids are going soft because parents are not letting them walk alone, driving them everywhere. I mean, so my auntie's a school teacher, and she said this to me before. Nowadays, parents are so worried about paedophiles, about predators, about kids being abducted, that they drive them everywhere.
I'm going to hang my head in shame. My wife says this to me every day. Your teenagers ain't going to get tough unless you start wiping their backsides.
Come on. I cycled my little 3-year-old through the snow to nursery the other day. He can be hardy. Look, I do think children need to learn
I think they're absolutely right.
how to play out, how to be out on the streets, how to move, how to run, how to have fun, and also not be indoors staring at screens every day.
We come home from school, we were on our bikes until she shouted tea.
Exactly.
That doesn't happen
Mum
nowadays.
said tea at 6 o'clock,
Yeah,
come in.
and in you came.
And you came in, and if you weren't covered in bruises and cuts and
If you're
whatever,
covered in a bruise now, you're going to be taken away, aren't you, to be perfectly honest?
Is
But
there
it's
something
making our
about
children
resilience?
fatter and more depressed and less resilient and more frightened of the world.
And they don't
and more
learn how to take
anxious.
risks and how to
Absolutely
kind of
right.
work within their own thresholds and test things and push boundaries because they're not given those
Paedophiles
opportunities.
are not going to get them. You know, most of sexual abuse happens within families,
Yeah.
within extended families.
I am absolutely
A paedophile
the
doesn't-
example of the bad, and I completely put my hands up. I completely have shielded and been far too soft on many of them. I mean that absolutely.
Why? What are you nervous
I don't know,
of?
fear, whatever. But do you know what? Here's the thing. People talk about social media and how the world has changed. I'm not going to tell you the exact story, but when I was 8, a kid in our area got murdered, right? He got murdered. It's in all newspapers 50 years ago. We still went fishing the next day. Were these things not reported? Did people not do social media? I don't know. We've got to let our
got more
kids
risk
breathe, and
of
I am
that.
guilty.
Those-
I am absolutely guilty.
Those
of that.
terrible events are very, very rare. That's why they're,
Of course.
that's why they're reported.
Emma, parents who, now this is something, parents who homeschool their children face Ofsted inspectors, according to Lord Nash. This in the Times today. Thoughts, quickly, Mummy?
Really interesting one. Did you know that homeschooling in Germany is illegal? There is so much homeschooling. Some of it is very good. I cannot imagine why anyone would want to homeschool. Most parents I know, after the 3 years of the pandemic, or 2 years of the pandemic, were just like
Shoving them back into the classroom. Yeah.
almost dead with the effort.
Oliver's only
huge-
4 and he was off for 3 weeks. And
I
honestly,
nearly died
He was
when-
going to boarding school by January the 1st. let
Literally,
me
by
tell
the
you.
time Ludo went back
Yeah.
to nursery, I was on my knees with
Yeah.
just 3 weeks. The school holidays are way too long. But what they're saying is, Lord Nash is saying, we need to check out a lot of these parents. What is going on at home? And I'll just tell you a little anecdote. I was in the playground, this woman staring at her phone with a kid who's about 7. After about 10 minutes, we got talking. She said, I homeschool him. She hadn't talked to him. They were out in the playground in the middle of the day. The child was on its own, not being homeschooled in any demonstrable way. She was staring at her phone. It was so sad.
I don't
to
believe,
think
and
of
I'm
this
going to be
child
slaughtered with this, I
should
don't
have
believe.
been in a school with other children.
There might be specific examples, James, but I don't believe that is any good. I know there are examples, but for people who do it for the wrong reasons, that does not benefit the kid. And I worry about this whole
course it doesn't.
environment whereby people work home, I just won't take my kids to school, they can do. Not good enough.
No, and it seems to be the sector is very underregulated. So at the moment,
Ofsted
parents are
can't go
just-
in. No one can go in to their homes.
The councils are supposed to check that the person's registered as homeschooling them, but councils are massively overstretched already. They can't do many of their basic functions, and I don't think we can really rely.
Well,
on
I'm going to say something
check
that
up
I
on
never
the
thought I'd
kids.
say on television. The Labour Party, one of their plans in education is to have an inspector who makes sure that people who homeschool their kids are brought to task, and
Properly
fair
inspected.
play to them.
Look, children need proper education, but they also need socialisation. They need to be.
Of course.
Oh my God, young
Get
children
with your own age
especially
group. You're
need
doing my
to
editing,
be
right?
with children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emma, you said the holidays are too long, but lots of us are now booking them. James, shall we look in the Star and in the Mirror? Sunny holidays bookings are up 20%.
Want to go away
in a rush to flee
so
the
nice.
freeze.
Yeah, as soon as the frost hit, bookings shot up by 20% for this week compared to 2023. And also, the Mirror have a story that the most popular destination now is Antalya in Turkey, whereas previously it was the Canary Islands. Turkey is also the destination people now go to get their teeth done or to get a Brazilian butt lift.
Well, we're going to
We're
hear
talking,
that can go
very good. We're
awfully
talking about that
wrong.
in about 15 minutes. Yeah, we're not going anywhere. We've got kids. I've got another one coming in 2 weeks. Not going on holiday for 2 years.
Also,
Mad.
can I
You're
just
mad.
say, I went on a holiday to the freeze, where it was going to be -20, to Norway, and had a wonderful time.
Norway's nice.
So you could book a holiday to go colder rather than hotter. No,
Why?
it was genuinely
Why would
brilliant.
you want to be colder
I
than
don't
this?
understand the whole skiing thing. Emma, right, can I just say, without upsetting you and James, I don't think until you've had kids, you would in any way not go to school, I'm going to the sun. Nobody who's got a kid would go skiing. You want to get warm.
Like this thing about children and parents not sending their children to school with a sniffle. Oh my God, I'll send mine to school with the bubonic plague. If I can get away with it.
Yeah, you're
Why
going
would
to
you keep
school.
them home? Why?
Absolutely.
Like, slightly different views.
We'll come back to you in 5 years' time and you'll agree.
And we've been talking about the post office, haven't we, this morning?
All day. Thank you for your comments, by the way.
Ken, good morning. He says, I believe the whole post office scandal and the compensation announcements are just political point scoring. If not for the election year, the victims would have been allowed to suffer. Ken, thank you.
Mark, thank you. No amount of financial compensation is enough to justify the imprisonment of an innocent and pregnant victim. No money in the world can bring back those 4 lives who preferred dying rather than living without dignity. The post office bosses and Fujitsu should be drained of every penny in salaries, bonuses and pensions. Talk today at talk.tv. Text to 87222. Start your message with the word talk. You two, amazing. Wolfie and Bloodworth, thank you. See you next week.